Beautiful. Every time you've been on for Wednesdays with Weddington, by the way, it's been like a perfect morning. I don't know. You're bringing in the good weather.
I try. I try. Oh,
All right. So, is off the top here, I've got a question for you here in a second. But anything top of your mind as we head into summertime that you want to get out there or that people might want to think about? Maybe some things to check on that they haven't checked on in a while that maybe they should take a look at around the house while you got a little extra time to do that.
yeah. I mean, with these warmer days and nicer evenings, a lot of people are spending more time outside. Um, One thing to hit on is, and this happened at my own house, is the water hose was left hooked up to the hose spigot through the winter time last year because we had, or this was year before last, because we have chickens outside that my wife has to fill up water things for through the winter. So instead of unhooking the hose, it stayed hooked up. Long story short, I didn't know it until the summer whenever I went to open that valve and I heard something leaking in the basement. And it was because that hose bib had froze and split, but
Oh
you
yeah,
didn't know it until you turned it on in the summer, and it re-flooded that cavity full of water. So those are things to look at. General maintenance on the exterior of the home. See a lot of people doing pressure washing and items like that to the exterior of their home in the early summertime.
so once again, usually I use myself as an example, and usually not a good example. So I was pressure washing parts of my mom's house last week, and while I was up there, the hose knocked the ladder down, and I was stuck on the roof by myself for a little while. My mom wasn't strong enough, being well into her 70s, and my grandma, 98 years old, they couldn't help get the ladder back up. So there might be some safety things to think about if you're trying to do some things on your own, especially on a ladder if you're afraid of heights. It might be worth opening up that wallet or that credit card to have some professionals help you out. Would you
Yeah,
agree with that?
just don't go outside of your comfort zone. That's the biggest thing.
Right.
You're physically fit, getting up on the roof, knocking the ladder over. It's a funny thing, but could you imagine if that was you and you didn't have cell service or have a friend or family member close by? So those are things to think about. Just don't overexert yourself. Don't take on more than what you think you can. I'm not telling you to hold yourself back, but at the same time, just be cognizant of those risks that are out there for items like that, especially up on
Sure.
the ladder. Um, I seen that post last week when that happened, and it just reminded me of who is that? Chevy Chase in
Oh yeah.
the Griswold Christmas.
Yep. Yeah, I heard that one too.
Yeah.
But we got a comment here from Laura. She said, "I don't do ladders." LOL. So yeah, like Brad said, if it's not in your comfort zone, maybe think about hiring that professional. But so this time of year, I haven't stained my deck. This is a question I had for you in 10 years. So the covered part in the back still looks good. In the front, you can definitely tell that we need to stain the deck. Now, how often do you think that people should stain the deck? And also, I have a friend, I'm not going to name his name, that has a theory that you should never stain your deck because once you stain your deck, you're just going to have to keep staining your deck. I don't know if you've heard
Uh,
that theory before. So let me know your thoughts on the timing and that conspiracy theory.
to me, that's not a good principle. Or that's not a good way to look at it. As far as just never stain it, and then you never have to restain it. You kind of hit the nail on the head there with the fact that your back area is a covered deck, whereas the front is exposed to the elements. The enemy of a treated deck is UV rays, so that's the big aspect on it. So number one, you're going to have to wait. Let's say we installed a brand new, fresh deck on the back of a house right now. You're going to have to wait till the end of the summer before you can stain that anyways. And the reason for that is the treated lumber has to dry out a little bit. Think of it as a sponge. When it's treated, it's a sponge full of moisture, so it can't absorb more. So as you allow that treatment to dry off a little bit, you allow that wood to be like a dry sponge, and now it's going to absorb and soak in that stain that you put on there. Uh, there's different types of stain. You go from a clear coat all the way up to a what's called a solid stain. So you've got clear, semi-solid, solid. I'm not trying to get too in depth on one
No,
aspect.
go ahead.
But
We can always rewatch this. We can replay it.
I don't want to lose anybody, but because to most people this is a simple question, but to me, I kind of want to dive down into it. So, what's going to help prolong the life of your deck is how many of those UV rays can we block? So, the covered area on your deck, it's going to last about twice as long under that coverage, if not 3 times as long than the uncovered area that's on the front. So that's one thing to think about as far as timing. Another thing to think about is the more pigment that's in that stain, the longer it's going to last. So basically, on a semi-solid stain, you're going to be able to look at the deck and still see the wood grains, and it's going to look like a natural deck, just changing the color. Whereas if you go to a solid stain, it's almost going to look like paint on there, but that's going to last the longest. And at the other end of the spectrum, you have more of just the clear coats and items like that. So the biggest thing to do is basically protect that wood from the UV rays. And I want to say on my back deck, I've got a covered area, and you can go about 10 years on a covered area, but on an uncovered area, you're noticing, Ben, on your own house, it's probably a 5 to 6 year time span. So
yeah, I'm overdue for sure on that.
Yeah.
Now, no, go ahead.
They've changed. So treated lumber now versus treated lumber 20 years ago, they've changed the chemical composition of it. So when people say it just doesn't seem like it lasts as long, they're actually right. As long as you get stain on it, it's going to really help with the lifespan of it. But yeah, just to leave it out there with no stain on it whatsoever, cooking in the sun, you're not going to get near as much time out of it as you think.
All right, we've got a question here. Laura says, I know this for sure. Made the mistake of staining a portion of wood fence we installed ourselves. Gotta let it dry out first. It will warp. So that was to your earlier point to wait. Now, John Fox says, what if you just power wash and waterproof? So you just keep the natural color of the deck.
You can do that, but you're gonna need to do that almost every year. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of work.
Yeah. So it's going to require more maintenance if you do that route, because clear coating it, like I said, it doesn't have any UV inhibitors in it, so it's gonna gray out. If you see the old wood on an old barn or anything like that, it's got that gray color to it. If you just do a clear coat, that's going to gray underneath of there because you have no UV inhibitors blocking that sun. So what he's saying, yes, that can be done. It's just going to require maintenance of an annual or every other year type of thing. Whereas if you stain it with a solid stain, you're going to last, a good 3 times that length.
All right. So my other question is, I've got another friend in the neighborhood. I won't name his name because I don't know if he wants to be named, but he's in professional staining and painting business. And so when I ask him, if he can get me an order, he's like, here's the list of what you got to do. So it's like, you got to power wash it. Then you got to sand it. Then you got to let it dry for a couple of days if you really want to open up the pores and get that stain. So how much would you recommend to follow those directions step by step? Because we're talking maybe like a week process. You got to make sure you got dry days in there. Then it can't be too hot. It can't be too cool. It is, if you want to do it right by the book, it is quite the process to do some staining the right way.
Yes, there's a happy median between just slapping it on and going that extreme. So there's a happy median in there, because now me as a builder, I just want to say, well, just pop the boards up and put composite down, and you're never going to have to worry about it again.
Like my mom's house, yeah.
Right. So you firsthand seen the difference on your mom's houses versus yours as far as maintenance goes. Yes, you're going to have more of an upfront cost, but maintenance is unbelievably different. I mean, it's literally pressure washing it and you're done. Whereas on yours, you really got to scratch your head and go, do I restain all this? Are these deck boards still in good condition? If I'm going to pump this kind of money into restaining, might I want to consider just redecking it? but as far as the process to stain a deck, yeah, if you followed what he's telling you, that's not wrong at all. What he's saying is accurate. Temperature plays in, humidity plays in. Um, but reality is very few
Yeah.
people go through that process. So then
And
they'll just,
I actually did that process the first time, and yeah, I will say it lasted a long time. So
yeah,
there might be some value to that. Now you kind of hit on this just a second ago. The benefits between composite and then the real treated wood. The big difference is going to be that upfront cost, right?
it is. The spread has gotten closer and closer. It's still a little bit more expensive, but the first real brand to come out with a composite decking is going to be Trex. So a lot of times that's TREX. So a lot of times when people talk about composite decking, they just kind of all call it Trex, kind of like everybody calls Band-Aid, Band-Aid. There has been some new players to the game that have stepped in to try to fill that void between the top dollar Trex and treated lumber to kind of bridge that gap. So there's some competitors out there that make a very high quality product that's going to fit kind of in that middle ground to where it's somebody saying, I want the longevity of a Trex, but I don't want to go full for the brand of Trex. Let's find a happy medium. So your price is more, but it used to be about 4 times the cost of, when you're looking at a deck board, it was about 4 times the cost. And now with some competitors out there, you can get it for roughly 2 times the cost. So yes, it's a more of an expense on the front end, but if it's an area you're going to use quite often, I would suggest it. If it's like the deck on your house, on the front of your house upstairs, it probably doesn't get as much use. Maybe not invest in the money there, but the area you use quite often, it's worth it.
I remember when that first came out, I feel like it was like the early 2000s because I was a reporter in Jeff City, Missouri, and we were doing a story about whether you should do a composite or treated wood even back then. So, and I remember how much it cost back then too. And I got a question here from Laura. She likes the grayed out look, which is the look that my mom's back deck has. And she says, does the composite stay hot or hold heat though? And I can say that it does not. My mom's decking actually feels kind of cool, like to the touch. I guess it would depend on the color that you'd use.
That's the biggest thing right there is the color. The darker you go, it's going to absorb more of those UV rays. It's going to hold its heat. The lighter color, I think on your mother's, we did I believe it's a gray look to it. So the lighter colors are going to help. Plus on your mom's house, it's in the woods and it's covered. So you have to have those things working for you. If it's a out in the open exposed decking, the lighter the color, the better.
Yep. Now, we've covered decking. If there's anything else you want to add about decking, let me know. It was almost kind of like a nightmare when you said replace the deck boards. I don't want to hear that right now. And I know Jason Applegate, owner here at Extol Media, he's got to replace like his whole deck. So eventually it can come to that. I don't want to think about that right now. But anything else with decking or anything else you want to hit on that we haven't hit on in this edition of Wednesdays with Weddington?
No, I think we went all around the place on the decking, from one extreme to the other, from replacing to just restaining. The lady that popped in on the comments, she said she liked that grayed out look. So as long as that's something that you like, you can just clear coat it. But the biggest thing people want to know is, what can I put on my deck that's going to last the longest? And at the end of the day, it's a solid stain is going to last the longest, as far as blocking UV rays and protecting that decking. If the looks is something you're going for, you can go with a lighter color.
And Laura says, great to know. So happy to help out Laura there. And I put the deck on my cabin, which is just like a camping cabin, on by myself. And it may only last, we don't know how long that's going to last because I did it myself. But do you know somebody close to you that might be able to help people out with decking still these days that you want to give a shout out to?
I've got my framers do a lot of my decking for me. Believe it or not, my dad actually owns a company.
That's what I was trying to tee you up there a little bit.
Yeah, my dad actually owns a company called Weddington Fence and Deck, and that's all he does is fencing and decking. Uh, he does them on my houses occasionally, but he more the caters to the homeowners as opposed to the contractors.
Yeah.
He's been in that business for about 15 years now. So
Okay.
what's
All right.
Weddington Fence
Awesome.
and Deck?
Weddington Fence and Deck, Weddington Custom Homes. All right, we've had a good, I don't know, 15 minutes here with Brad Weddington. Thanks for the information. We will see you next time. And if you have any questions or comments, you can always leave them in the comments, or you can email me or Brad. Brad, have a good rest of your Wednesday. Thanks for popping in.
You too. Thanks, Ben.
I see you, bud. All right, that was Brad Weddington. I'm going to take the earpiece out here. Thank you guys for the comments. Thank you, Laura, for joining in the conversation, and John Fox as well. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the little scroll there at the bottom. There you can see as well, Weddington Custom Homes here.